Let me tell you something that may surprise you. The best way to unhear the noise in your mind is to be silent. But most of us avoid silence. According to one US study, 67% of men and 25% of women chose to experience painful electric shocks rather than be alone with their thoughts in silence for just 15 minutes. Yet, it's a gift. In this insightful podcast episode, Dr. Julia Verdouw shares her journey of retraining her mind to unhear the noise in her head through the practice of silence.
The counselling side of it is around retraining your mind to unhear the tinnitus. I was someone who had been practicing meditation and prayers. I'm a person of faith, so for me, I'd been learning to sit in silence and meditate. And for me, that looks like just sitting in the presence of God and just sitting in that relationship, not praying, not saying anything, not having any expectations, just sitting in silence. And I'd been doing that for a number of years before I got tinnitus. And actually it was a really big part of retraining for me, because it's kind of counterintuitive to think that I would want to sit in silence when I've got tinnitus, because it's actually the contrast between the silence and the noise in my head was heightened. And I was very aware of that, but I decided to continue that really intentionally, because there's something about, and I think this is really true for the rest of our lives and for a whole bunch of other things in our lives as well, when we can learn to sit with ourselves, with the distractions, with the high-pitched noise, with the things that we don't like about ourselves, the things that are chaotic inside of us, the things that we want to run away from, the things that life is trying to throw at us. When we can sit with those things in stillness and silence and be at peace with those things, I think we can go into the world and into our daily lives with an ability to just to approach those things in a lot healthier way. So for me, sitting in the silence with my tinnitus and learning to focus on my relationship with God, learning to focus on that still place and to not pay attention to the tinnitus in the midst of that silence was actually a place that helped me in the rest of my life, because that moment, that time, that 10 minutes or whatever it was in the morning, 20 minutes of just sitting in silence was something that I wanted to take into the rest of my day. And I think when we can learn to do it in a small, attention-focused time like that, we can then start to learn to bring the peace and the stillness that comes from that into the rest of our day, no matter how chaotic or distracting or loud or whatever's going on.
So beautiful paradox that the practice of silence and stillness and prayer and meditation actually prepared you for the noise, and that it was actually part of the retraining process. We will again in a future episode, sound like I keep promoting the podcast, but we are going to talk about stillness and silence because it's called the Spacemakers, and the importance of space for understanding the inner life, your values, your purpose, which is actually important for shaping your attention around what matters most.
You know, I've spoken a little bit about, you know, the things that I've learned from it, but I think having tinnitus has really helped me draw attention to life, and that I want life, and that sometimes I have to look, you know, outside of myself and my own problems. And, you know, this is not just tinnitus. The death of my husband has been a big journey in this too. To choose life, to choose to think things that are joy-giving and positive. And, yeah, life has been really tough in the last few years in particular. And there's been a lot that I've not wanted to be joyful about, and a lot that I've had a lot of, obviously, grief in, and overwhelm and stress, and just had to completely rethink my life and repattern my life, and bring 3 teenage girls along that process too, and be present for them. And, you know, there's been a whole range of different things that have wanted to, you know, really get me down. But what I've learned through tinnitus and this experience too, with my husband passing away, is that I want life, and I want to love life and enjoy life, and that I can choose that I can unlearn and unhear some of those negative thought patterns and stories that I tell myself, and I can choose life, because life is amazing and beautiful, and there is so much beauty and wonder around us, not in the big fancy stuff of life, in the everyday that we all have access to, you know, outside our window, in the sounds of our kids laughing, in a good movie, in a good conversation with friends, nice glass of wine, like the beauty of trying to make something with your hands even if you're not good at it. Yeah, I've really learned to give time and space to that stuff, the meaningful stuff.